actually, the creation of this book was because Tom gave me a book when I first moved here. He always gives books to me.
That's what I mean.
And the book was called something like Things Come On or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That it was accompanied of poems with relations of how things related in history and passages and stuff. And I thought, that's a fascinating idea.
Isn't it?
I have to do something with it, but I don't know what. And I looked over the years at all of the interviews I've had either on TV or on radio or whatnot, in journal books and select things, and we worked, and this was along with other stuff, came up with a piece called In Depth, and it has selections of exactly that, things from interviews, journal entries, and poems that reflect those things. And I happen to, you can't really see it well, but I was wearing silver, and there's like silver nails and lips, so this is the first draft of it. Anyway, it's got a select few things, and I would like to share with you a couple things where I'm actually going to share the interviews and the pieces after them. I'll do like 4 poems. This was first from an interview in 1990 on CBS News for a Healing Works art exhibit, and it's and I was on TV because I had pictures of scars and things like that. There's samples of some of it on the page, and I had said I've got a couple here that are shots of bruises or scars. So that's a theme that I did for a while. A lot of the times people that go through this kind of experience, they find these scars, whether they have intentional physical scars or not. This is a prose piece that is called Scars, which is actually the foundation for the main Scars publications, for like the magazines and everything else. This is Scars. Like when the Grossman's German Shepherd bit the inside of my leg. I was babysitting 2 girls and a dog named Roscoe. I remember being pushed to the floor by this dog. I was on my back, kicking as this dog was gnawing on my leg, and I remember thinking, I can't believe a dog named Roscoe is attacking me. And I was thinking that I had to be strong for those 2 little girls who were watching it all. I couldn't cry. Or when I stepped off Scott's motorcycle at 2 a.m. and burned my calf on the exhaust pipe. I was drunk and he was driving, and I was careless when I swung my leg over the back. It didn't even hurt when I did it, but the next day it blistered and peeled. It looked inhuman. I had to bandage it for weeks. It hurt like you wouldn't believe. Like when I was little, roller skating in my driveway, and I fell. My parents yelled at me, "Did you crack the sidewalk?" Or when I was kissing someone and I scraped my right knee against the wall. Or maybe it was the floor. When someone asks me where that scar is from, I tell them I fell. Or when I was riding my bicycle and I fell and my front wheel skidded and over the gravel. I had to walk home. Blood was dripping from my elbow to my wrist. I remember thinking that the blood looked thick, that nothing hurt. I sat on a toilet seat cover while my sister tried to clean me up. It was a small bathroom. I felt like the walls were falling in on me at any time. Years later, I can still see the dirt under my skin at my elbow. Or when I was 5 years old and my dad called me a swear word because I made a mess in the living room. I didn't. Like when I scratched my chin, when I had the chicken pox. That is Scars. I lost my marker. And I'm going to do a little in the next one from Nation magazine. They asked me a question about writing background, and this was my response. When I started to work at a company that kept me occupied 10 out of 40 hours a week, so I started submitting poetry to magazines and kept getting rejected. And I saw that editors were getting accepted to all these magazines, and I thought, if I was the editor of a magazine, then they wouldn't reject me because I knew my work was good and that it deserved attention. So I started Children's Churches and Daddies, and now it's like a baby to me. I get published on my own, but CC&D is my baby, and I don't want to let it die. So I guess that's how I got into publishing. It's a matter of knowing I have something important to say and finding a way to be able to say it. And apparently, people are listening. And here's the poem, Children's Churches and Daddies, where the magazine name came from. And the little girl said to me, "I thought only daddies drank beer." and I found myself trying to make excuses for the can in my hand. I remember being at church, a guest at a wedding of two people I didn't know, and my date pointed out two little boys walking to their seats in front of us in little suits and cowboy boots. This was Central Illinois. And my date said to me that he was sure that those boys would grow up to be gay, and the worst part of it was that their father was the coach of the high school football team. I think I laughed, but I hesitated. I remember being in the church. It was Christmas Eve. My date's family went up for communion, and all I could think was that singing the hymns was hard enough. I don't know the words. What am I doing here? What am I supposed to do? And I stayed seated as everyone else slowly got up to the front of the church. Little soldiers in little lines, little children in their little dresses walking behind their mummies and daddies. And the little girl said to me, "I thought only daddies drank beer." And I found myself trying to make excuses. I will then go to it at an essay much later on. There was a very lengthy one done in 2017. Daddy said a bunch of questions, and the first one of them, he said, "I'm going to do some quickies. Glance or stare?" And I have a poem as a response for both of those things. I remember to stare in my poem, Andrew Hettinger, which is probably not the type of stare that you're referring to in your question, but here goes. I never really liked you. You never revealed yourself to me, and why would you? You never had anyone. You who always had the bad breaks. Everyone always looked at you as different. Where would you have learned to trust? Who would you have learned it from? I never really liked you. I met you through my friend, and he explained to me that multiple sclerosis left you with a slight limp and a faint lisp. Faint, but still there, under the surface, still there. It's a trace of something that no one would ever know you well enough to fully understand. I never really liked you. You never revealed yourself to me, and I never wanted you to. You scared me too much. You plagued with physical ailments. You with a limp in your walk. You with a patch over your eye. You who always stared at me for just a little too long. They told me the patch was from eye surgery with complications, and now you had to cover up your shame, cover up someone else's mistakes, cover up a wrong that you did not commit, cover a problem that was not of your own doing. The problems were never of your own doing, were they? I heard these stories and I thought that it was sad. I heard these stories and thought that you had to be a pillar of strength, and I saw you drink straight from the bottle, 15-year-old Chianti, and I saw you smash your hand into your living room wall. This was how you lived. The house you lived in was filled with trash. Why bother to clean it up anyway? It detracted you from the holes in the wall, the broken furniture from drunken fits. This was how you reacted to life, to the world. You didn't know any better. This was how you coped. I never really liked you. You would come home from work, tell us about a woman who was beautiful and smart that liked you, but she wasn't quite smart enough. And I thought, we believe anything if we tell ourselves enough. We weave these theories, these fantasies, just to get through the days. I never really liked you. Every time you talked to me, you always leaned just a little too close. So I stayed away from the house, noted that others whom you called friends did the same. I asked my friend why he bothered to stay in touch with you, and he said to me, "But he has no friends." And this is how I thought of you, a man who was dealt a bad hand, a man who couldn't fight the demons that were handed to him. And with that, I pushed you out of my mind, relegated you to the ranks of the inconsequential. We parted ways. You were reduced to a sliver of my youth. I received a letter recently, a letter from someone who knew you, someone who wanted me to tell my friend that they read the newspaper that you hanged yourself. Your brother died in an electrical accident, and after the funeral, you went to the train station, and instead of leaving this town, you went to a small room off to the side, and you left us forever. Strangers had to find you. The police had to search through records to identify your body. The newspaper described you as having health problems. but you knew it was more than that. And I was asked if I could be the messenger to my friend. And the funeral had already passed. You were already in the ground. There was no way he could say goodbye. I shouldn't have to be the one to tell him this. No one deserved to tell him. He's the only one who tried to care. I never really liked you. No one did. But now that I had to tell my friend, I knew his pain, and I knew he wanted it to be better. I knew he thought that you were too young to die. We all do. He felt guilty for not calling you. He knew it shouldn't have been this way. We all knew it. I never really liked you, but now I can't get you out of my mind. You haunt me for all the people that we've forgotten in our lives. I don't like what you've done. I don't like you quitting. I don't like you dying, not giving us the chance to love you, or hate you, or even ignore you more. My friend still doesn't know where your grave is. I'd like to find it for him, to take him to you. Let him know that you did have a friend out there. Bring you a drink, maybe, a fitting nightcap to mark your departure, to commemorate a life filled with liquor and violence and pain and death. I never really liked you, but maybe we could get together in some old cemetery, sit at your gravestone, share a drink with the dead, laugh at all the injustices of life when we're surrounded by death. Maybe then we'd understand your pain for one brief moment and remember the moments we'll always regret. I'm going to make it happy for you for the other side of it, because it was a stare or a glance, and this was the other side of it called And I'm Wondering. And I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it just me? Am I making this all up in my head? Or when I glance up and catch your eyes, well, are you actually staring at me? And I'm wondering if it could work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that no one ever does, because we know that we will always be in love. And I'm wondering if you'd find my neurotic pet peeves charming, like, oh, I hate it when someone touches my belly because I'm so self-conscious. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips, there, just seconds before. And I'm wondering if a year or two from now, after we've been going out and should have gotten to that point where we're bored with each other and sunk into that comfortable rut, if you saw me making macaroni and cheese, say, and I'm in the kitchen and I'm using margarine and water because I don't have any milk, and I've got my hair pulled back and strands of hair are falling into my eyes, and I'm wearing an oversized button-down denim shirt and nothing else. Well, what I'm wondering is if you would see me like this and still think I was sexy. When I glance up and catch your eyes from across the room, when I see your eyes dart away, when I feel this chemical reaction, well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too? Dun. Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yay!
So nice.